Good morning, students. Hope you are all fine, doing well. Today we go for discussing collection of data. Before that, we came to know that actually what do you mean by scaling methods and as well as what are the scaling techniques. As you all know very well that the entire effort what we are putting here, especially to understand about this business research methods, is nothing but to analyze the data. Understand? So what is the advantage is going to be there after analyzing the data? You are going to take various decisions. So let us suppose that a cars company is there. Suddenly the sales of the cars come down. So what happens? That company orders for what you call investigation. So regarding that case, what is required? They collect the data. What is the reason behind in sudden downfall of the sales of the car? Understand? There will be so many sources to get that information. Whether the reason is external or internal. If the internal reason is there, means the customers really inconvenienced with the kind of mechanism whatever provided in the car. That can be troubleshooted, that can be attended, what you call after analyzing the data. Same way, really the reason is what you call external. Might be car is good because of what you called the distributors, what you call dealing with the customers in time, handing over the car. So these kinds of problems would be there. So because of these two reasons, Broadway, if you think there might be what you called downgrade or else what you called falling of the sales of the cars will be there. So here the point to be observed is nothing but to get information, to make decision regarding the situation. What is required? Data is required. So we are going to discuss about the various methods to collect the data. That means the collection of the data. So all the sales reports would be there for 1 year, for 5 years, for a decade, understand? For any company, that becomes the data. Right? The so many MBA graduates produced by Usmani University for certain what you call period of time, that becomes the data. Understand? Now how many COVID cases daily coming up? So even after taking the vaccination drive very what you call effectively into the society, that becomes what you call the data. By analyzing these data, what happens, the decision making is going to be clear. Now, when you are thinking about the data, so there will be two axes. One is called data and one more is the datum. A datum is nothing but a singular, I mean to say a single numerical information. Collection of the datums becomes the data. Understand? So that means what do we mean data? Data is nothing but the set of information, particularly in terms of numerics, in terms of what you call the numbers most of the times. Nowadays the data what you call presenting in terms of pictures also, in terms of what you call other signs also. But straightforward way, how do you think about a data? Means the data means nothing but the set of information, particularly in terms of what you call the numerics. Okay, a data means nothing but a single numerical information. Wherever problem arises, to identify the appropriate solution regarding that problem, what is required? The collection of the data is very, very important. Okay. So as far as what you call the collection methods are concerned, before that we need to segment the data into two very, very important segments, very, very important categories. One category is known as the primary data and one more category is known as the secondary data. Now today we are going to discuss actually what do you mean by a primary data, secondary data, what are the methods are available and what are the advantages and as well as the disadvantages. Okay. So there are two types as far as the data is concerned. One is called the primary data and one more is called the secondary data. What do you mean primary data? Primary data are those data collected first time and original in character. This is very, very important. Okay. So as far as the primary data is concerned, for any what you call research work whenever is going on, specifically for that what you called problem, if the data has been collected, such a kind of data, such a way collected data is considered as the primary data. So primary data is going to be the more focused. Only exclusively the arised problem, to attend the exclusively arised problem, we are going to get the data. Such a kind of data is known as the primary data. As far as the statistical what you call kind of analysis is concerned, these data may not be what you call undergoing the statistical analysis immediately. So after collection of the data, after that we are going to what you call use various statistical what you call tools to extract the information. Such a kind of data is known as the primary data. Now what is secondary data? Secondary data are those data which have already been collected, tabulated and presented in some form by someone else for some other purpose. There is a lot more difference between the primary data and as well as the secondary data is concerned. The secondary data or the secondary kind of what you call numerical information will be such a way is available. Actually that numerical information will be collected by somebody else for some other purpose. But for what you call identifying the solution, for what you call the taking the help of what you call in making the solutions, you are using the data for your research. I mean to say somebody else's work you are using for your purpose. Such a kind of numerical information is known as the secondary data. Understand? Both are important as far as what you call the research is concerned, but both are having their own what you call pros and as well as the consequences. So let us discuss all these things in detail. So these are various primary data collection methods. What are those? Generally surveys would be there. Under surveys, what is the categorization? Like postal surveys would be there, telephonic interviews would be there. Again under personal way if you consider group discussions, individual way taking the interviews. And the next categorization is going to be the observation, or else what is that category? Naturalistic way inquiry. Experimentation, like within the lab conducting what you called various experiments for what you call finding the reason. Qualitative, depth interviews would be there, psychological testing would be there, focus groups would be there. Okay, as far as the experimentation is concerned, fields kinds of what you call data collection methods are also available. So this is actually the overall way what you call the methods which are available to collect the data. That is the primary data. Now we are going to discuss what are the exclusively considerable methods. So these are the exclusively considerable methods as far as the primary data collection methods are concerned. One is called the by observation method. The next one is through personal interviews, telephonic interviews, questionnaire methods, and the final one is going to be the through schedules. Understand? What do you mean by observation method? Understand? In the observation method, the respondent may or may not be knowing something is going to be extracted from their behavior, from their actions. That means through the observation what is happening, the respondent is going to be under scanner as far as what we call the data collection is concerned. The best example for observation method is nothing but you will be observing in big shopping malls, few kind of what we call people observing closely the movement of the customers. Whenever a customer enters into the what we call the supermarket, based upon the age, based upon the gender, okay, to which floor or else what we call the, to which rack they what we call directly move for what we call doing the shopping. Women would be there, they will be preferring to purchase the clothes. So wherever clothes are available, immediately they step into that particular floor. Children would be there, they will be preferring confectionery items, biscuits, understand, eatable things. So immediately in which rack they find that particular eatable item, they what you call directly they reach to that particular spot and they will be doing the shopping. Through this what you called the particular interviewer or else what you call the data collector coming to understand that which kind of goods have been selling more. Most of the times when the observation is going on, that point will not be observed by the respondent. Such a method is known as what we call observation method. Okay. As far as observation method is concerned, it's altogether going to be a costly way of collecting the data. If the data collector is not what we call expert, what will be there is a chance of what we call arising huge bias, error as far as what we call the data analysis is concerned. Okay. So this method is known as the observation method. So through the observation method, whatever information you get, what you call that the primary data. The second one is through personal interviews. You will be observing what you call so many TV shows where actually the what you call iconic personalities will be what you call interviewing by interviewers on various issues like political issues or else what you call the personalities. The what you call established personalities will be asked to share their opinions regarding any what you call the societal problems. So most of the time under personal interviews, one-on-one conversation would be there. So these personal interviews are going to be successful most of the times whenever structured. Because before itself the interviewer should know what kind of questions he is going to ask and how actually the what you call the response or responses whatever he is going to get from the respondent should be recorded. Otherwise the data you are going to collect through the personal interviews again leads to what you called a huge gap as far as the original situation is concerned. So what you call this method as? This method is known as the personal interviews. The next method is known as the telephonic interviews. As far as the cost is concerned, very cheap. Most of the time marketing researchers use these telephonic interviews. They will be asking various kinds of questions to the customers through the telephone. So from what you call directly making call to the customer and having the information and collecting the information such a manner is known as the primary data collection through the telephonic interviews. This is one more very important method, and as far as the expenditure is concerned, very cheap. Okay. So what do you call this method as? The telephonic interviews. The next method is the questionnaire method. This is going to be more scientific. Understand? What do you know a question? A question is nothing but you will pull few words to elicit the wanted information. That sentence is known as the question. So under the questionnaire method, set of questions would be there. that questions already prepared, scientifically tested, understand? You are providing that set of questions to the respondent. They are going to fill up that information according to the questions, understand? So for every question what will be there, options will be provided. So through in this manner, if you collect the data, what you call that method is known as the collection of the primary data through the questionnaire method. Most of the time, the marketing people, sales people using this method, questionnaire method. Even academic kind of what you call research is also going to be most of the time uses this method. So closed-end questions would be there, open-end questions would be there. Various types of questions are there. So based upon the question, the kind of response you are supposed to record. So multiple what you call choices would be there as far as the answers are concerned. So what do you call this method? This method is known as the questionnaire method. Very, very powerful method. The next one is nothing but the schedules. Through the schedules collection of the methods. Through the schedules collection of the data is just like the questionnaire method only. But the basic difference between the questionnaire method and scheduling is nothing but here under schedule method, the data collector, surveyor or else the researcher himself or herself is going to fill up answers of the entire questions, okay, whatever what you call the respondent is going to be provided. Just like questionnaire method, here also printed set of questions would be there. But these questions are going to be filled up by the data collector himself or herself. So most of the times you will be observing what you called these kinds of procedures by using government. So for every 10 years you will have a big activity throughout the country itself as far as the data collection is concerned. So what do you call that? Population census. Understand? So that particular authorized person will come to your home and he will be having in his hand what you call few set questions like who is the family head, how many members are there, what is the family income, how many people are employed, what are other what you call the details. The head of the family is going to give the answers and all that information is going to be filled up by the interviewer, researcher or as a data collector himself. So such a method is known as the schedules, through the schedules collection of the primary data. Understand? So these are the standard primary data collection methods. What are those? The first one is the observation method through the personal interviews, telephonic interviews, questionnaire method and through the schedules. So these are some of the techniques through which easily one can have the primary data, like warranty cards would be there. So when you purchase costly electronic goods, items like refrigerators, understand, fans and some other electronic items, they provide warranty cards. So what you are doing, you are filling up all your details, you give your phone number, if possible your occupation. Such a way they are going to what to call identify the kind of people purchasing their products, the kind of customers showing loyalty towards their what to call the company. So what to call these warranty cards. So distributor store audits. So when a car you are going to purchase, you are going to provide all the distributor to that distributor. Every information you are going to provide. The present latest information is you need to provide Aadhaar card. If you are working, if you are having earning, you need to provide the PAN number also. So all details you are going to provide. So this information is going to be very, very useful to the respective company people for future business strategies. pantry audits. What are the pantry audits? Nothing but the counter, the place actually where you are going to keep your what you call food items, eatable items. So you will be observing. So when you go shopping in big shopping malls, you will be using the carts, shopping carts. Understand? In the shopping carts, you will be filling with what you call various kinds of items like bath soaps, isn't it? Toothpaste, brushes, all grocery items. By observing those things also, those respective what you call supermarket people, they are going to estimate actually on which day what kind of items are going to be sold. Based upon that, they maintain the stocks. So what you call that, those kind of data collection methods are known as the pantry audits. Consumer panels, big companies would be there. Officially, they what you called form the consumer panels regarding the uses of their products are concerned. Very often they will be collecting information directly from the consumers. Besides that, what are other things are available as far as the primary data is concerned? These are all very what you call latest methods, modern methods like uses of the mechanical devices. Eye cameras are there. Pupilometric cameras are there, psychogalvanometer, motion camera, audiometer. Understand? All these readings, all these pictures are going to provide various kinds of information which helps for what you call the absolute decision making process. And finally, the projective techniques. Customers will be asked to project any information. Understand? So based upon that also the data is going to be collected. So these are exclusive techniques as far as the primary data what you call collection methods are concerned. Besides that, there are so many other methods are available. So this is what actually primary data means. The primary data is nothing but the data which has been collected for that purpose on that occasion only. So these are advantages and disadvantages as far as the primary data is concerned. What are the advantages? Reliability. Yes. As far as the primary data is concerned, we all know that the primary data will be collected only for that purpose on which actually any research being conducted. So while collection of the primary data is there, now so many what you call testing procedures would be there. So after that only finally the what you call the researchers will resort to collect the data. Hence the primary data is going to be the more reliable one. One can what you call without any iota of doubt they can depend on this what you call the primary data as far as the what you call decision making is concerned. One more advantage of the primary data is what? The availability of wide range of techniques. In the previous slide itself we discussed. There are so many modern techniques are there. So because of what you call these things, what happens? Nowadays the primary data became easy to collect. But in some ways it is going to be difficult, but as far as the what you call immediate requirement is concerned, one can use this various modern techniques. The one more advantage of primary data is control and focus. So while the primary data has been collecting, more control will be there as far as the what you call the items to be included into the primary data. So that leads to what you call minimizing the error. But in the statistics, the deviation is more if you take any decision based on that kind of data, what will be there, the results are not at all going to be up to the mark. So always as a what you call data collector, you should see that the error should be less. So that is the one more advantage of what you call the primary data. So what is that? Control and as well as the focus. So you are particularly focusing on the objects of your research, and based upon that you are actually resorted to collect that data. Hence, the primary data is going to have more control and as well as a more focusing. The final advantage of the primary data is what? Proprietary information. Because the primary data, first time for that purpose only you are going to collect. So because of that, what happens? You are going to in charge as far as the confidential information from that primary data is concerned. So there will not be any kind of scope to what you called get the secrets from the data by your competitors. So this is the one more very much considerable advantage as far as the primary data is concerned. What you call that? Proprietary information. So these are all the advantages. As far as the disadvantages are concerned, the first considerable thing is cost. Because, so for collecting the primary data, you need to depute highly skillful persons. Besides that, sometimes you need to what you called apply more sophisticated techniques. So because of this, what happens? The primary data collection expenditure will increase. The next one is the time consuming. So within a short period of time, if you want to have any decision, it's very difficult through the primary data. So it takes minimum time to collect the primary data, and after that you need to analyze the data. Hence the primary data is of what you call more time consuming. The next one is not always feasible. Most of the time scientific researches would be there. Every time what happens, if you are what you called resorting to collect the primary data only, it leads to more what you called damage. So because of this, what is happening, it's always not advisable to look forward for only the primary data. So sometimes because of all these reasons, it what you call necessitating us to look towards the one more kind of data, what you call the secondary data. Large in volume, this is one more very important disadvantage of primary data. Most of the time the primary data, whatever you are going to collect, will be large in size. To manage such a bulky data requires sophisticated techniques, softwares, understand? So ordinary people cannot do that. Especially equipped, trained people can do that, understand? Overall way, management of such a large data is going to be very difficult. The next one is the reluctancy of respondents. This is one more very important data. So as far as the primary data is concerned, sometimes in few kind of researches, the respondents may not be in a position to what you call give truth only, to speak truth only. They hide some valuable information. Because of hiding the information, what happens? The error will arise. Like what you call smoking habits would be there. Some other habits would be there. What you call chewing what you call porn, all these things. So when people, on face, if they are unable to accept their weakness, it is going to what you call lead to creation of the error. Such a what happens, deviation would be there in the data. It may not lead to what you called a transparency decision making process. Hence, this is also a very important considerable disadvantage as far as the primary data is concerned. What is that? The reluctancy of the respondents. So is the respondent? The respondent is the unit actually which provides you the information. Okay? So primary data, advantages and as well as the disadvantages. Next we go for discussing about the secondary data. One more very very important segment of the data is nothing but the secondary data. So actually the secondary data will be collected by somebody for some other purpose before time itself. Most of the times all considerable statistical tools might be applied on this vertical kind of data. But as far as the secondary data is concerned, again two categories would be there. One is called the internal data and as well as the external data. So what do you know internal data? Within the company, within the organization, sometimes already available information would be there. If you are making use of that information, what you call, you are using the secondary data, what you call internal. So what are the examples like sales analysis would be there, accounting records would be there. Now as far as the external secondary data is concerned, these are the various sources. So what are those? The CSO, Central Statistical Organization. It's central government organization which provides for every business organization, understand, various valuable information. And RBI, Reserve Bank of India, they also produces what you called bi-monthly or else what you call year-wise records. Through that entire banking sector is going to have various kinds of directions. Planning Commission, journals, government publications, through the internet, references, bibliographies, all this comes under what you call the secondary data. All this data is already collected by somebody else for some other purpose. Whenever necessity arises, you are making use what you call these data. What do you know bibliography? So bibliography is nothing but listing out all the books according to any what you call research problem. Let us suppose that in marketing research, if you want to understand about the consumer behavior. So regarding the consumer behavior, any established books are there, texture is available. If you mention in particular order, that becomes a bibliography. Same way standard references would be there, journals would be there, magazines would be there. All these what you called things are going to provide the data. So these are all external sources as far as the secondary data is concerned. Remember that this is not the fresh data which already is available. You are making use of the what you call any wanted kind of particular situation. So these are advantages and disadvantages of the secondary data. What are those? Advantages means economy, quickness, quality, availability. So as far as the economy is concerned, more advantageous, cheaper, because here you need not apply any specially skilled persons, specially trained persons. You need not apply any what you call sophisticated statistical tools. Just you are picking the data. So more economical and quickness. So as far as the what you call getting these kinds of information is concerned, most of the times you are going to consume less time. Within a short period you can have all this information. Quality. So generally the secondary data will be what you called provides by standard agencies. They might have collected this information for some other purpose. But when they were collecting, they might have used all standard procedures. Hence, most of the time, the secondary data, if you acquire from the what you call established resources, you are going to have quality kind of information, availability. So here, as far as the secondary data is concerned, there is no dearth, there is no difficulty as far as what you call getting this secondary data. So these are all considered as advantages. But as far as the disadvantages are concerned, relevance, existence of absolute information accuracy. The first disadvantage is relevance. Though the good amount of secondary data is available, but as a researcher, one need to think if the data has been used by us, which way it is going to help to us. Is it really relevant? Is it really going to support the problems whatever you are going to survey? So doubts will be there as far as what you call relevance of the secondary data is concerned. Existence of the absolute information. Sometimes in the secondary data what happens, some unwanted old information will be there. If you are make use of that information, most of the time it deviates from the truth. It deviates us from the truth. Understand? So you have to be careful as a researcher. So this is one more considerable disadvantage as far as the secondary data is concerned. And accuracy. Sometimes doubts will be there as far as the accuracy of the secondary data is concerned.